All right, in this video, we're going to go over Module 6.3, which is solving systems of equations by elimination. So far, we've learned to solve by graphing, solve by substitution, and finally, we're going to learn solve by elimination. So same benchmarks that we've been going over in 6.1 and 6.2. Given a mathematical or real-world context, write and solve a system of two variable linear equations algebraically or graphically. So the elimination method is an algebraic method to solve a system of equations where you eliminate a variable by adding or subtracting the equations. It's best used if one or both. So really it's best used if both equations are in standard form. And one thing to keep in mind is that if everything cancels, so you end up with the x, y, and constant canceling, then you have infinite solutions because 0 does equal 0. So if everything cancels out, then you end up with 0 equals 0, which is a true statement, which means you have infinite solutions. So if the variables cancel, but your constants do not, then you have no solution, because what you would end up with is 0x's, 0y's, and then you could end up with a constant. And if that happens, then what you have is parallel lines, so you have no solution. So just something to keep in mind if you do run into that scenario. Okay, so in example 1, we're going to solve by elimination using addition. So if the variables are the same, like we see here, we have, if the variables have the same coefficient, our coefficient to our y is 1 and our coefficient to our y here is 1. So if the coefficient is the same, but the signs, they have opposite signs, meaning there's a positive and a negative sign, then you're going to add the equations together to eliminate the variable. So in this case, we're going to eliminate the y. So let's add these two equations together, and 2x plus x is 3x. If we have a positive y and add a negative y, we get 0y. So now that essentially cancels out or is eliminated. And then 19 plus 11 is 30. So now that we have our new equation, 3x equals 30, now we can solve for x. So we divide by 3, and x is equal to 10. Now that we have our x value, now we're going to substitute that x value into the equation and solve for y. So 2 times 10, because our original equation was 2x plus y. So now we're going to have 2 times 10 plus y is equal to 19. That's going to simplify to 20 plus y is equal to 19. Subtract 20 from both sides, and we get y is equal to 1. So now we have our x and our y values. Now it's time to check. So we're going to first plug in our x, y to our first equation. So 2x plus y becomes 2 times 10 plus a negative 1 equals 19. That simplifies to 20 minus 1 equals 19, and 19 equals 19. Then we're going to plug it into our second equation. X minus y equals 11. So if we do 10 minus a negative 1, that simplifies to 10 plus 1, which equals 11, and 11 does equal 11. So both our x and our y values check. So now we list it as an ordered pair. You're going to go ahead and try the check number 1 on your own, and then you can later check your answers in Canvas. Here we're going to move on to example 2. We're going to solve a system by elimination using subtraction. So if our variables have the same coefficient, like we do here, again, our y values both have a coefficient of 1, but they have the same signs. So they both have a positive sign. Then what we're going to do is we can subtract the equations now to eliminate the variable. The only thing I want to warn you about is when we're subtracting our equations, we have to make sure that we subtract every set of terms. So 13x minus 10x is 3x, and 12 minus 6 is 6. Of course, we see here that our y's canceled out because a positive y minus a positive y gives us 0y. But a lot of times what happens is you forget you're subtracting our x terms or your constant terms, and then students make a mistake. So a lot of times some teachers only teach you to add, but you can also subtract the equations and get the correct answer. So now again, we're going to solve for x. So we're going to divide by 3 on both sides, and we get x is equal to 2. So now we're going to substitute the 2 in for our x into either of the equations and solve for y. So I'm just going to plug it into my first equation. So 13 times 2 plus y is equal to 12. So I get 26 plus y is equal to 12. Subtract 26 from both sides, and y is equal to negative 14. Not sure why my box is moved, but that's okay. Just pretend like it's up on top of the y. Now we're going to check our answers. So we're going to plug in both our x and our y values to both equations. So 13 times 2 plus a negative 14 simplifies to 26 minus 14. Is that equal to 12? Yes, 12 is equal to 12. And now we're going to plug it into our second equation. 10 times 2 plus a negative 14. Does that equal 6? Well, 20 minus 14. Does that equal 6? And yes. So because both of our answers checked out, we can now list our ordered pair or our solution, which is 2 and a negative 14. Okay, of course, you're going to try to check 2 on your own and check your answer in Canvas. Now we're going to move on to solving with elimination with using multiplication. So sometimes there are going to be no variables with the same coefficient. And if that happens, then we can still use elimination, but we first have to multiply one or both equations to create the same coefficients. So usually we can create the same with the same sign, but if we create equations with the opposite sign, then one variable can be eliminated and we can use addition. All right, so here in example 3, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply one equation, and here we're going to actually multiply our second equation so that we can make this x value, our x variable, have a coefficient of negative 2. So we're going to multiply the entire equation by negative 2. Negative 2 times x becomes negative 2x. Negative 2 times a positive 2y becomes a negative 4y, and negative 2 times 4 becomes a negative 8. So you must remember to multiply every single term in the equation in order to not change the equation. Okay, we're going to keep our first equation the same. So that's just 2x plus 3y equals 10. Now we can add the equations to eliminate the x. So once I add 2x plus a negative 2x, I'm going to get 0x. A positive 3y minus 4y is negative y. And 10 minus 8 is 2. So I don't want to know what negative y is. I want to know what y is. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. And now I have y is equal to negative 2. Now that I have my y value, I'm going to plug it in and find my x. So 2x plus 3 multiplied by a negative 2 equals 10. I'm going to simplify that. So 2x minus 6 equals 10. I get a positive, I'm going to add 6 to both sides. 2x is equal to 16, divide by 2, and x is equal to 8. Now that I have my x value and y value, now I'm going to plug it in and check my answer to both equations. You can see here that when I plug in negative 2 or 8 and negative 2, I do get the same exact answer on both sides of the equal sign, so it does check out. My solution is 8, negative 2. Check 3, try on your own, and check in Canvas. And finally, we're on to example 4. All right, so what you'll notice is that these two boxes are yellow. And the reason why these two boxes are yellow is because the equations that were there didn't involve us multiplying both equations by a number. So we've changed them in our notes and for future reference so that we now have two equations that neither of the equations can be multiplied by a number to have the same coefficient. So now we have to multiply both equations in order to get the same coefficient. Okay, so we're going to multiply the first equation by 2 because our coefficient on this second equation is 2. So if we multiply this by 2, you'll notice we get 10x minus 4y equals 18. Because again, I multiplied the entire equation by 2. Not just the x and y terms, but also the constant. Now I can multiply the second equation by a negative 5. Sorry, not sure why it went out of order there. But I'm going to multiply the second equation by negative 5. And so I get negative 10x minus 35y equals 60. And now I can add the equations to eliminate the x. So 10x plus a negative 10x is going to give me 0x. Negative 4 plus a negative 35 is going to give me negative 39y. And 18 plus 60 is going to give me 78. Now all I need to do is divide by negative 39. And then I get y is equal to negative 2. Now that I have my answer for y, now I can plug it into either equation and solve for x. So 5x minus 2 multiplied by negative 2 is equal to 9. So 5x plus 4 is equal to 9. Subtract 4 from both sides. 5x is equal to 5. Divide both sides by 5. Now I get x is equal to 1. Now I'm going to check my answers. And I see that they both check out. So my solution is 1, negative 2. Then try check number 2 on your own. Make sure to change the equation for your check to be 3x plus 4y equals negative 22 and negative 2x plus 3y equals negative 8. And you'll check your answer in Canvas. That's it. Have a good night.